And here we go. So the name of this project is called Give Hope, Give a Hand. And as I mentioned, my wife and I, Michael and Janet Mendonça, we are the founders of this organization. Very proud and very humbled to be part of such an effort. There'll be a couple times when I'll put up my contact information. It's simply michael@ln-4.org. I recommend that if you write it down on a piece of paper, that you use the uppercase L for the letter, because if you write down the lowercase l, sometime when you come back to look at it, you're going to think it's the letter I. So just remember michael@ln-4.org, please. I want to start by just doing a very brief acknowledgement on COVID-19 and recognizing that virtually every person on this earth has been affected by this. And I'm so compassionate and sympathetic to people who have been affected directly and indirectly, be it family members or friends or other loved ones or their businesses as well. And just felt like I had to start off by acknowledging that. So thank you everyone for being here. We're going to be showing some pictures throughout the whole time here. This is a couple of recipients, one who has already been fitted with a hand and one who has not been fitted with a hand. So what is the Ellen Meadows Prosthetic Hand Foundation? We refer to it as EMPHF, which is a lot less of a mouthful than the Ellen Meadows Prosthetic Hand Foundation. The project itself that we do, we call it Give Hope, Give a Hand. That is the process of giving away hands to recipients at no cost. And then we have two products, but in each case, the prosthetic hand, this is just a graphic of it, is called the LN pulled on an automobile some years ago, and that's where the LN comes from. And the number 4 is it's the 4th project that's been done in her honor. The hand comes in 2 sizes, regular and large. We do not call them small and large. We do not call them adult and children, because a woman, a 50-year-old woman in Southeast Asia needs the smaller hand, so we call it a regular hand for her. And a 12-year-old boy in Southeast Africa may need the large hand, so we don't call it the adult hand, to be mindful and respectful of their needs and also any aversion they may have, as an adult would not want to have a child's hand and a child may not want to have an adult's hand. So here are the 2 hands that you can see. The top one is the regular sized hand, and the bottom one is the large sized hand. It's simply strapped throughout the presentation. Here's another little recipient. So the overview of the Ellen Meadows Prosthetic Hand Foundation. Ellen Meadows, as I mentioned, she was a young adult in her late teens who had been in an automobile accident and was killed. Her father, Ernie Meadows, set out to do something in her memory and in her honor. One day, he was looking at a toothbrush in the grocery store, and the toothbrush had little rubber bumps on it that you may have seen, and he needed these little rubber bumps to be molded into the prosthetic hand that he had designed. He went strictly to the manufacturer of the toothbrush. The manufacturer of the toothbrush sent him to my company, because my company helped develop that technology for the toothbrush company, which is how my involvement in the Prosthetic Hand Foundation came to be over 15 years ago now. Our first hands that we did, we machined them and we grinded them and we filed them and we sanded them out of blocks of plastic in order to do the best we could, because certainly we didn't have the ability to mold them at that time. Oh, also back then, there were no such thing as 3D printers. So those of you who are working with 3D printers, you will find out what happened in an era before you had access to those tools. Our first trip was to Vietnam. My wife and I learned of a group going there, and we thought, hey, Vietnam's got to be a perfect place to find people who need hands. And so we set out there with a half a dozen prototype hands, and we had failure. We had complete and total failure. We were not able to find recipients very easily. The hand did not work properly. We had not even thought about the fact that we might want to register people on a document as the recipients of the hand. So we really kind of determined that the trip was not successful in terms of being able to successfully put hands on people, but he felt needed to be done. 6 months later, and after making quite a few changes, we went to Kenya, Uganda, and sent a team to Tanzania. 6 months after that, we did a follow-up, and we were able to locate most of those people, and every single person, every single day, was still using the hand, and we deemed that a success. From there, we set up a nonprofit U.S. organization and have moved forward with many strategies and many efforts and many resources, which we will still talk about. There's another great picture of a recipient. So we're going to do a couple little exercises along the way just to kind of get people engaged. Fingers on your hand. I want you to just count to 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I want you to think about which hand you started with. Was it with your dominant hand or was it your non-dominant hand? It could have been either. And then now I want you to switch hands, and I want you to count to 10 with the other hand starting first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, for many people, this is not a big deal. For others, it actually poses a little bit of a challenge. And we'll do a few things throughout the morning here, the day today, where we kind of build our awareness as to dominant hands. Now I want you to do another exercise. This one's going to be a little more telling. I want you to fold your hands, fold your arms in front of your chest, like Tony the Tiger here. Okay, now I want you to pay attention as to which hand is over the outside and the top, and which arm is over the inside and the bottom. Now I want you to switch that up. It's not so easy. It is quite a challenge to do this. I just cannot emphasize, of course, having two hands, but losing your dominant hand, how important that is. Here's another one of our favorite pictures. The prosthetic hand is not designed to be able to use chopsticks, but when someone who uses chopsticks is able to do it, we just find that even more incredible. So we are a business. We are a nonprofit business. Up until recently, we actually had no paid staff for the first 15 years of our organization. And the first part of our business model is we're constantly looking at design and manufacturing. How do we change the hand? How do we improve it? How do we manufacture it? How are we funded? We're funded through individual donations and grants, and also through our corporate partners. We have one huge corporate partner who pays our foundation for the unassembled components so that they can run corporate team building events and assemble the hands. All of that money, all of those finished hands come back to the Ellen Meadows Prosthetic Hand Foundation. Then we have a distribution and logistics process that we use where people send us a request for hands. We have them boxed up in increments of 25, and we send an email to our distribution company and our logistics company, and they send the hands out. All hands are sent out free of charge. And then when they get to the location, ambassadors are responsible for finding recipients, putting the hands on, training the recipients, and then sending us a simple one-page form registering the recipient. Now I want to do another little exercise where you pick up your cell phone or you pick up your remote control, and I want you to just decide on picking a number of buttons. Either send yourself a text that says hello, or enter. You could do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 on the remote. I want you to do that. I'll give you just a moment. And then, of course, now what I want you to do is I want you to switch, and I want you to use your non-dominant hand and enter in the buttons. Once again, a little bit of a challenge for some people. And even more importantly, here's what I want you to take note of. You had to hold the phone or the remote with a hand. So you actually needed 2 hands in order to accomplish this exercise. Now we're going to show you a video of people using the prosthetic hand. This is a 3-minute video, so it's not really long. That video is very telling. To date, we have distributed over 55,000 hands in 80 countries, always free. And as I mentioned, up until recently, no paid staff. We are a volunteer organization. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. I'm going to give you a live demonstration of the hand. And I want you to see how it works. So first of all, it straps on just above the elbow right here. And it has 3 straps that run down the arm. And then the residual limb, the portion of the hand that is been amputated or a person's not been born with one, goes into this area right here. And then this is the regular sized hand. Here's the large hand. It's about 50% larger. And the way it works is these 2 digits move independently and incrementally by putting pressure on them, and they release by putting pressure on the top. It's an all or none release mechanism. I can use my chin. I can use my other arm if I'm missing 2 hands. The most profound thing that we see is when someone loses the dominant hand. That's why we were doing some of those exercises. And if you close one of the digits and you lay an ink pen in there and you close the other digit, it has quite a grip. And then you can rotate the hand and it's perfect ergonomics for writing. Some other things you can do is you can put a sponge in the hand. You can use that for washing cars or washing windows or washing your child or a loved one. You can even use it for bathing yourself. The hand is completely fine to put in water, dirt, mud. You rinse it out and it lasts somewhere between 2 and 5 years. We don't fix it, we just replace it. You can use it for holding a toothbrush, brushing your teeth. You can even use it for holding a mug. It's a little bit tricky. You take some practice to do that, but we can use this for holding a beverage, bringing it to your mouth. So as you can see, the hand is quite functional. Now I'm going to share my screen again. So the way our organization works, we have a few corporate partners that are really significant. One of them is called Odyssey Teams. That's the organization that gives our foundation money so that they can use the assembly process in their corporate offering. We've worked with a lot of Rotary clubs throughout the world. Many of you in the Fab Labs, I'm sure, are familiar with Rotary. Also, the suppliers, everyone from the company that provides the boxes to the molders to the companies that provide springs and straps, they also have helped us out over the years. We've worked with a lot of non-governmental organizations and governmental organizations, including church groups of all denominations. Another great recipient showing how to use a fork. And then recently, we've started working with SolidWorks and Dassault Systemes as a huge corporate partner. We were involved at the 3D Live convention in Nashville last year, where SolidWorks and Dassault Systemes announced that they were going to support us with a lofty goal, which I'll tell you about in a couple of moments. Fab Labs, I have a question mark next to that because we are actually hoping to get Fab Labs involved as a partner with us. And that commitment is not monetary. The commitment is really being a resource in local areas to help distribute and fit recipients. According to the World Health Organization, these are the top countries in the world who need hands, but there are over 100 countries who do need hands. These are just the top 10 or so. The world need for below elbow amputees is 6.5 million people. Again, below elbow only. This device is mainly set up for below elbow amputees. We have worked with an above elbow device. We're not really excited about it, but we have had some good feedback with it, and we will continue to work on that. If you put in upper limb amputees, meaning people who have an amputation above the elbow, it's about 13 million people. Now I want to do our final little exercise here. Now I want you to pick up an ink pen or a pencil or chalk, and I want you to write with your non-dominant hand. Just put your name on a piece of paper. I'll give you a moment to do that. Not so easy. Our experience when people have lost a dominant hand where they had learned to write with it before losing their hand is it takes less than 15 seconds for them to be able to write again at full speed and legibly. It's really quite remarkable. What's it like to be an ambassador? Now, a few minutes ago, I told you an ambassador was a person who, on their own dime, goes to other countries, takes hands or receives hands, and helps to train local people and fit local recipients. We have a category that I like to call ambassador extraordinaire. And the person who represents that category is here with us today, and that is Dr. Gregory Ekbom. Gregory, if you could take your mute off at this point. And I'm going to go through these slides with you, my friend. You're in charge.
Well, thanks, Michael. It's a real honor to be connected with and to be serving alongside you and Janet, and now Dassault Systems. It's a real honor. My background is I'm a general and vascular surgeon, and retired a few years ago, and have been doing some work in both Kenya and in Democratic Republic of Congo, specifically in Goma. And so I've been a real I've been a real incentive for me to kind of not only for the surgery practice in those locations and the teaching, but real natural to bring the prosthetic, the LN4 arm prostheses into that. In fact, my own son was a bilateral amputee. He lost both of his legs here about 2.5 years ago, and that kind of opened the door for me to really have a real strong interest in the amputee patients in developing countries. So, I think some of the things that were really I noticed have been really important is the requirement for both the fine movement and the coarse movement that the patient or the amputee requires each day. You see the example of writing. Well, that's fine motor, and sometimes it's easier to do with more of a regular hand or prosthetic hand, and then the more coarse, the lifting of a pail or the gardening or holding a hoe. That's sometimes with the larger prosthetic hand, that's that has been, I've noticed it's really been important in the choice of how we fit. And many patients, of course, they want to do both. What's really nice about this prosthetic hand is you can interchange. You can move. You can put a small or a regular, and then a large hand. Again, teaching the patient to use the prosthetic arm as an aid, something to work against, is really, really important for fitting. And so we emphasize a lot of times the dominant hand, but I can't tell you how critical it is to have that non-dominant prosthetic arm. So that's what they hold the toothpaste tube, and then with the dominant hand, or with their other regular hand, they can open up the tube, or so working against, or working maybe in collaboration is really important in the fitting, that how helpful that is, even if it's a non-dominant hand. So that's another critical thing. This ongoing challenge for us in the field of the upper arm above elbow amputations, this is really real significant. In Goma, in the DRC, I think the majority of patients that I saw were upper arm, and we used this extender, and so we're able to fit that, and that was successful. But this represents an area of some real challenge, or real concern for me. The other thing is that sometimes the amputation is done at the very, at a location at the wrist. And that's not the best location either for fitting for a prosthetic. So I've also always said, for teaching purposes, it's good to be fitting these for the patients, but it's also good to be training the surgeons in that area and teaching them where would be the best location for doing an amputation at which level. I told Michael one time, Michael, you can design the best prosthetic that you possibly could, but unless the surgeons know at the level of where to do the amputation and the amount of bulk that you bring over that, the best prosthetic is not going to fit. So I think that's part of the training. And then the constant temptation for financial gain that comes with distribution in the field. That's why relationships are so important, and accountability and follow-up and going back to visit and why that's really important. And when I heard about Dassault and about the systems and the Fab Labs, what a great place for having that accountability, or that to maybe work through or work over that temptation that's there. Not, it's for the hospitals and for the clinics and everybody that really has a connection with the distribution. Patients who are fitted well are the best marketing agents for this effort. And I think that's how you get from 80,000 to 1 million. You get a good product and you fit it, and they go out and you get inundated with requests. Please come back. Please come back and go out for other areas. And so as an ambassador, I have so many invitations to come to new locations based on the fitting that we've done. The other thing that's that's really important, I think, as an ambassador is when I go to a site or a clinic, I not only focus on the patient, the amputee, but I focus on the surgeon or the PT department or whoever I'm working with, and I tell them, listen, I want you to establish a reputation as being a site where you can fit prosthetics. And so developing those relationships at that site with the people who will continue to be working is really important. And then keeping a small supply for replacements and new recipients. Whenever I go, I try to bring some extra so that they have on hand, and they can use those for repairs or for the inevitable new patients that come in. And one of the things I think as an ambassador, if I'm speaking personally now, is I'm committed to going back to those same sites for resupply, for developing relationships. In the hospital in Chigoria, they on their own have established a prosthetic clinic now that they bring in patients every month, and they want to build a wing, and so that's the kind of a relationship I think that is really important for ongoing support. So those are just some comments that I would have about serving in the field.
Thank you, Greg. You are awesome, and we're just so pleased to have you as part of our organization. Can't say enough about how important the ambassadors are to making this whole process successful. I'm gonna go back to our You are an ambassador extraordinaire, Greg. Thank you, sir. Dr. Ekblom, everybody. We try to do group training when all possible so people can learn from each other. It's really so much more of a healthy strategy. We have 3 strategies when we go into a location for sustainability. The first strategy is we train the local people. If, as Greg mentioned, he gets invitations to come back, but he's not able to go back every month or every week or maybe even every year. So it's really important that we train the local people. Just 2 to 5 people in a location is really adequate. Our second strategy is to identify ongoing points of distribution. This is a place where people can come back to get a replacement hand. It's a place where people can tell other people who are amputees, hey, go get a hand. It's a place where physicians who perform amputations can know this is where people can get a hand. We're really looking in any sort of geographical area, not a country, but a community, 1 or 2 locations, and only keeping an inventory of maybe 5 to 10 hands. We have some locations that keep as many as 500 hands, but that's certainly not what we're thinking about as we get further out in distribution into much more micro areas. And then finally, the third strategy is to locate, fit, and train recipients. Now you would think with a prosthetic hand, this has got to be quite a daunting task. It takes about 10 minutes to fit somebody, train them, let them start using the hand. All of our training videos are on YouTube. We have a process where you would learn how to do that. So this is our 3-point strategy. Call to action. So we want to do something with Fab Labs. Our biggest challenge as an organization is to locate recipients. believe it or not, we don't need help with manufacturing. We have corporate partners who are helping us with financially. We are really in need of being able to expand our network and get into communities where there are recipients, maybe only one or two, maybe 1 or 200, maybe 500, whatever it is, we are able to help with that. We need your help in finding recipients. Our goal is 1 million hands. 1 million. We know that the need out there, as I mentioned, is about 6.5 million below elbow, and another 6 to 8 million above elbow. We're only trying to do 1 million hands. Once we hit 1 million, we're going to bump the goal up, but this is what we need help with. The need is all over the place. So what is it that Fab Labs might be able to do? Our thinking is, first of all, we would love to have you as a partner. We're not looking for financial assistance. We're looking for distribution. We're looking for a relationship between Fab Labs and the Ellen Meadows Prosthetic Hand Foundation. We would call you an ambassador organization. Individuals from a Fab Lab would go online and register to become an ambassador. It takes about 5 minutes to do that, and then there's some training that takes less than an hour where you learn how to qualify, fit, and train recipients. The second thing you would do, as I mentioned, you would get trained on how to fit the recipients, and then you would request a small inventory of hands. These hands do not cost anything. You do not pay for shipping. You do not pay for the hands. You just have to go through a couple of small steps in order to receive the hands. If you'd like to become an ambassador, here is the website. It's ln4handproject.org. Remember, the name of the hand is the LN4, handproject.org. This is one of my favorite pictures of all time. This man is blind and a rice farmer, and he's working his fields. He's got a stick or some sort of tool in one hand, holding it with the prosthetic hand. The use of the hand for people who need it is beyond our wildest imaginations. Here's my contact information again. Remember, write down capital LN so that when you look at it again, it doesn't look like IN. And now I would love to hear some questions and hopefully provide some answers. I'm going to go on to my chat. I've got some questions. I love it. So an interest has been expressed in Caracas, Venezuela. That's great, Daniela, thank you. I'm so touched that you have a different role for being here to help support me, and yet you have heard and engaged and responded to what we're doing. Thank you. So another question about whether we've had any involvement with eNoble. And actually, I'm not familiar with eNoble at all. So that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm struggling going through the rest of the questions here. Let's see here. So I'm going to ask for it to be opened up with, if someone would just want to raise their hand if they have another question. Otherwise, I would love to have you email me and we can talk further. I'll give it just a couple minutes. Oh, actually, there was a correction. It's enable. I don't believe, I think we have been in contact with enable, or is it e-enable? Uh, but I would love to initiate that contact again, just to clarify. Okay, everyone, I would like to thank you again for your participation and attention, and grateful to hear from anybody to move forward. I think at this point I will plan on signing out. Daniela?